Oh, this is going to be hard to get through, innit? Anyway, hello, how are we doing? Today's video, just like the last one, is a video that's been requested by my psychologist. Again, for the purpose of showing staff. So I suppose this is kind of like maybe a follow-on from my previous video, part 2 if you like, and this is going to be all about STEPPS. As I've mentioned in a few videos now, STEPPS is a group that I've been going to for the last about 5 months now. We've got about a month left, so yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, STEPPS is a program based on a systems training approach to treating people with borderline personality disorder. It stands for Systems Training for Emotional Predictability and Problem Solving. As I think mentioned in I have BPD video. Oh. So BPD is characterised as a disorder of emotion and behaviour regulation. The goal of STEPPS is to give patients with BPD and the people around them, so friends, family, anyone, sort of a common language to communicate with about the illness and give patients the skills and I guess people around them to help manage it. Essentially, they teach us all about it, where we're going wrong and how to fix or realign our emotions and behaviours. The programme is broken down into 3 steps. 1. Awareness of illness. 2. Emotional management skills training. And 3. Behaviour management skills. So I've been asked, what did I think before starting STEPPS? As I mentioned in my being ready for group therapy video, I went to STEPPS as sort of just another compliance to the recommended treatment from my mental health team. By then I'd already done a group, so I wasn't as sort of anxious about joining another group. To me it was just another group. However, I do know how daunting starting a group is because obviously I was there, you know, as first timers. It's a scary thing, but obviously by the time STEPPS came around, it wasn't my first, it was technically my third. But as we all know, I didn't do the first one really, did the second one, went all right in the end. I think STEPPS is quite a heavy group to start as your first one now knowing. So props to people who it perhaps was their first group and they've done it or are doing it, like they've continued it, because I don't think if it was my first group I would have been able to hack it. I think I would have dropped out by now, just like I did with the DBT group. 1 session, I was out. The second one, coping skills, easier, but it did take me a good 3-4 weeks to start attending regularly because even that was still a bit challenging. So STEPPS group, I think it's a challenging group. I think the main thing I was just sort of focused on joining STEPPS was I just want to get on with it, because I know that where I'm at now compared to where I'll be at the end of the group, I'm going to be better off as long as the group works. And you've got to kind of just go into these things assuming it will. As long as you put in the work and effort, you should come out feeling better. And that's what I just kept in mind. I knew this was a lot more of an intense group and I was kind of at this point really up for it. I just wanted to get on with it. I think it's good to keep in mind when you're feeling anxious about joining these things that the end result is what's important. Just keep that in mind, because you can't keep focusing on how you feel on the day, like before starting or as you start, because you're going to feel your worst probably then. As long as you can get over that, by the end of it, it's going to be alright. It's going to be alright. I don't think many people come out of these things feeling worse. The work, as per se, people might come out of it and think they didn't really pick anything up from the work, but I think just being in these environments, it gets you out the house, it gives you something to do in the day, it gives you a bit of responsibility. So overall, you're going to take away something. If it's communication skills because you're engaging with new people, I think, you know, there's many aspects you can take away from being in a group, not necessarily just the work you're doing, but just the entire experience. You're going to get something out of it. And what's that saying? You survived 100% of your worst days so far. So you can do that, you can do this, you know what I mean? Just like my previous video, I put it out there to the people in my group, and I had someone say that they sort of feared before joining that the other people in the group wouldn't understand or would perhaps have different illnesses, so it'd be harder to sort of engage with each other and get each other. I kind of agree with that as well, because prior to joining STEPPS, they didn't actually mention that it was a group for people with BPD, and I don't really know why they didn't mention that, but I would recommend mentioning that, because it does take the pressure off a bit in that regard of worrying that people won't understand you because they might have a different disorder. Just just mention that, oh, don't worry, they're all going to understand you, because we're all speaking the same language, we all behave in a certain way, we've all got BPD or traits. So for me, I think the one thing I did find quite daunting was the length of time of the group. 21 weeks is a long time, especially for someone who's suffering. It's hard to think of where you'll be the following day, let alone in 6 months' time. But like I said, I just kept in mind the end result. You know, I've got to try, I've got to put in the effort, otherwise I might as well just not go. So yeah, I was quite, in the end, I think motivated just to do it and just get better. Speaking now, we've got, I think, about 4 sessions left. So we've got a month. So the question is, how do I feel about it now? Better, to say the least. I still feel as though I've got a lot to learn, but I'm definitely more equipped now. I enjoy understanding BPD more, and I enjoy learning about it. I enjoy understanding why I feel a certain way and realising my triggers. But beforehand, I was one of them who was like, no, I don't have any triggers. That doesn't exist, it just happens. Sometimes things do just happen, but now I understand. Actually, like, they're so hard to see sometimes, and learning about it and working out what's going on almost subconsciously, and then recognising your triggers, and then putting things in place to avoid being triggered, all those kind of things, they just kind of start to fall into place as you go on in the group, and I just enjoy having that control back. Finally, I feel like I can control MAD Mad. She still puts up a fight, but I can sort of slap her back down if need be. I enjoy being able to vocalise and explain to people who may not understand as well why I'm behaving in a certain way, and you know, why I need a little bit more leeway almost in certain situations. If I'm having a bad blip and someone might just sort of not get it. Before diagnosis and before doing work, everyone just thought I was crazy. Multiple times people thought I was on drugs. Before, I felt voiceless, like I was just one big walking, talking emotion. I feel closer to being me again, and I think others can agree with that. One person actually said in our group that, this is in quotes, it's been a life changer, a game changer, and one of the best experiences. So I think that sums it up. I don't think anyone really has taken away anything negative, and I think that's the main point. Like, it's hard, but I don't think anyone's walking away regretting it. I was asked what my struggles were, and realistically I don't think I've had any. I mean, I've had a few, but I wouldn't really call them struggles, I'd just call them more learning curves. And they're sort of just, you know, the standard that I think is common amongst us all. Talking in front of people, and I guess on your bad days, when you just don't really want to turn up, you're trying to dedicate yourself to the work, but you just don't want to. They're a struggle, but they're all easily overcome, you know, if you're really willing. And I think that's sort of the point of STEPPS. It's just having that willingness to participate, and therefore those bad days will become easier because you're there learning how to deal with it. You know, on bad days, I suppose it's just harder to listen and engage, but I think as long as you turn up, then that goes to show something. But nothing's really come up where I thought, nah, I can't do this and I need to leave. Like, I haven't really had anything like that. In the beginning, I had quite a loud internal voice during our sessions that wasn't particularly nice about anything or anyone. That's nothing personal. My just reaction in my head is just to shit on something. Not that I wanted to, but if you're like MAD Mad was like, shit on it, like, we don't want this, because she likes being her, and this was sort of work going against her, and she was trying to make it hard for me, if you like. But as the time's gone on, she's quieting down, and I think that's just, again, shows that the work is helping. I can like pull myself out of my head, I can pull myself out of her way of thinking. For others too, they've said that they find it difficult when they've got the skills but they're struggling to use the skills and tools during certain situations, which I understand as well. I feel like it can be quite frustrating if you know what you should be doing and you just don't want to or just can't, and you just sort of feel like a bit of a fraud for like going and learning these things and then not putting them into play. But that doesn't happen all the time, you know. In certain situations, you just got to get through it, and as long as we try and put into play these things, then I think that's good enough. And eventually, you know, it's all practice, and eventually we won't have those decisions where we're just not putting it into play anymore. It will just happen. We will just start using these skills without even realising, and that will just become our norm. So I suppose there are a number of things that have been really helpful within the group that have been put into place by staff. For example, example, we have in every session at least 2 therapists sitting in, and they also co-facilitate the group sometimes. And these therapists, they do one-to-one sessions with us on a different day every week, like following up after the group. They're only short one-to-one sessions, but they sort of enable us to recap the work we've done, making sure it's really sunk in, and if there's anything we didn't understand, we can go over. If you miss a group session, they can sort of cover it all really quickly in your one-to-ones, so no one sort of falls behind any work, which is helpful. I don't think I have missed any yet, but the last 4 sessions, however, I will have to be missing half of every group session, which I'm not chuffed about, but something else has come up that I need to do on the same day. So having these one-to-ones will enable me to sort of go over what I've missed, which I'm glad of, because I don't want to miss the work. And also, if you're like me who doesn't speak so much in group, it sort of gives me a space to say what I was thinking and feeling during the session. It just makes it a bit easier because you're not in front of everyone. You can sort of be, I suppose, a little bit more honest, a bit more myself. And I guess it just gives you good time to reflect in a less intense environment, because it's just one-to-one. Also, I guess unrelated to the actual work, having it on a separate day, it just sort of gives you something else to do in the week. For a lot of us, we don't have anything going on apart from group and appointments and that kind of thing. So having something else to bulk out the week, I think helps, because then you feel a little less of a failure almost, like you've got nothing going on, you know, you see everyone else, family, friends working or doing this or learning in college or school or uni or whatever, and you're just sort of sitting there on your own doing nothing. So just having something to do in the weeks help, and it's only going to benefit the end goal, which is getting back on track with whatever it is you want to do, work or learn or whatever. Just it gives you more responsibility and things to do in the week, which I definitely find helpful, especially on the harder days when you don't want to be sitting at home on your own with yourself. So it's just nice to have something to do. I don't know if anyone would agree, but that's my opinion. Another thing is they offer in every session, we also have a cool down room. So if you're struggling or need to leave, you can just get up and go to this cool down room, which, you know, I think's really helpful and a good idea. I've personally never used it, but I've definitely been in situations where I've needed to leave and not been able to because there's nowhere to go. So I'm sure that's a really helpful thing for others. Amongst the work that we do, which I haven't really, and I don't think I'm going to go into detail on in this video, but we do something called pot forms, which are helpful. Not that I've always used them, but I have. And I get it now. At the beginning I was very opposed to them, I didn't understand them, but I do understand the benefit of them now. A lot of people do really like them and use them all the time. I kind of feel like I can do it in my head now. Pot forms are all about having a situation and breaking it down and identifying what you're feeling and why and what's happened and sort of what you think and what you want to do and what you did and the filters that are engaged. And I think the point of them was you do them so many times that you start doing them in your head. That's I think something that we'll all take away is one of like maybe the easiest and like quickest way to sort of deflate an intense situation. Something else I've also picked up within sessions is we discuss, like we go around and people discuss their pot forms or what's happened in the week or any problems, and we do that first and then we'll get onto the work. And I find it helpful and quite, I suppose, good when our facilitators will relate back like the work we're doing to what someone might have said, so they sort of put the work into a context that we can kind of understand and remember easier. I don't know if that's intentional or what, but I think that's quite good at making it seem more realistic. For example, we're being taught communication skills. I certainly struggled with the whole I statements and not, is it using them? I still forget. Yeah, and using them. So hang on, let's just go back. So I struggled with these. I'll use an example. So you've got blaming versus I statements. The blaming is you can't keep coming home so late, it's so inconsiderate. And instead of that you say the I statement, I feel worried when you come home late, I can't sleep. It says a good I statement takes responsibility for one's own feelings whilst tactfully describing a problem. I struggled with that because I found it could maybe sound manipulative, and they sort of, you know, talked over that and whatever. But taking sort of an I statement back to what someone might have described as their pot form earlier in the session, instead of sort of just telling us what an I statement is and how to use it, they've used it in the context of how so-and-so should have or could have used it, and then it comes a bit more realistic and easier to understand because it's not just being told, it's been like sort of demonstrated as well. And they do that sort of in a lot of the topics. Ultimately, it just makes us more aware for the next time it may come up. Regarding what staff could do better, I don't think there's a lot. When I say staff, I'm talking about staff running STEPPS. I'm not just talking generally, because that was last video. But yeah, so yeah, I don't think there's a lot. Perhaps one thing for me is giving sort of an equal opportunity for everyone to speak, or sort of a cue to speak, even if they don't usually speak. You know, this is one I think is quite personal for me, because I'm someone who doesn't speak a lot unless I'm sort of asked to, and I wish I was asked to more. You know, sometimes I don't speak because I don't want to, but a lot of the time I do want to speak, but I just don't have like the confidence to speak up in front of people. I get sort of worried, and I know this is like a me problem, but I get sort of worried that someone else wanted to speak and I've sort of taken their time, or I don't know, I just don't sort of feel entitled enough to say something if I'm not asked. Probably comes back to primary school being engraved that, you know, you're not allowed to speak unless you put your hand up, and I don't know, and I struggled in school with confidence, and yeah. So yeah, it's a me problem, but there's people that talk probably not at all. They might go 2 hours the entire session without speaking, and I sort of wonder, is that because they or we didn't want to speak, or because we didn't know how to speak up? Equal opportunity to speak, a little cue, question, do you want to say something? Or maybe sort of gives a nod like, what about, do you know what I mean? It just takes the pressure off more, because sometimes I sit there and I'm like, I really want to say something, but I can't open my mouth. Really, apart from that, I don't think there's much any of us could say is wrong. Like I say, I don't think any of us are taking away anything negative, so I can't sit here and say you need to do this and you're doing this wrong, because that would just be contradicting myself. So well done. Someone did say, which I agree with, is just get to know your patients as much as possible, know their backstories and their triggers and just who they are, and all it's going to do is make it easier to treat them and make sure they're in the right treatment. Learn how far you can push them and when you should rein it in a bit and let them just breathe. Just sort of personalise the treatment a bit to it. You know, we're all different. I know we're in a group and we've sort of got the same thing, but we're all still individuals, and I think some staff do this already. But yeah, I just don't make it always so serious, which I don't think our I don't like this word, facilitators do. That, you know, we have a joke and a laugh, and sometimes it's a bit serious. It just sort of depends on the day. Like I say, it's all about emotions, behaviours. Sometimes we're all not feeling it, and sometimes we just want to have a bit of laugh, and that's fine. And ultimately, just know that you're doing a good job, I guess. We wouldn't be still in the group, you know, with a month to go if you weren't doing a good job. We know it's hard on staff as well. You know, mental health staff go through a lot, you know, just generally, wherever you're working, inpatients, outpatients, it's hard, and we get that. So just do your best. Like I said in my previous video, be as human as possible, and we should all get along just fine. I'm not speaking just for myself, this is a group input as well. We just thank you for the work that you do. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope it's been helpful. And yeah, I'll do. Cheers. Thank you. Goodbye. Gorgeous, mate. Gorgeous.